An apparently shy girl accepted a job as a waitress for dangerous mafia members in a remote restaurant, not knowing that their boss desired her in a way she never imagined. Quick thing, sweethearts. Tap that like button for me and subscribe. We're gathering all the romance lovers and drama enthusiasts right here. Together, we're creating the biggest, boldest community on YouTube. The wine glass shattered before Emma Walsh heard the gunshot. Crimson liquid splashed across the white tablecloth like a bad omen, and in that split second, she made a choice that would change everything. Instead of screaming, instead of running, she calmly picked up another glass and continued pouring. The 3 men at table 7 hadn't even flinched. That's when she knew. This wasn't her first night at Russo's, but it was the night they'd been testing her. Emma's hands should have trembled. Any normal 25-year-old would have been calling 911, but Emma Walsh wasn't normal, even if she'd spent her whole life pretending to be. The man who'd fired the shot, some hothead named Tony, was already being escorted out by 2 guys in expensive suits. And there, in the corner booth, sat Dominic Russo. 30 years old, designer everything, and eyes that could strip paint off walls. He was watching her. Really watching her. Not the way men usually looked at her, like she was invisible, forgettable, safe. No, he was looking at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't wait to solve. "You're still here," he said when she approached his table. His voice was smooth as aged whiskey and twice as dangerous. Emma met his gaze. "The shift doesn't end until midnight. Most girls would have quit after that little incident. Most girls probably have better options." Something flickered in his expression. Amusement? Interest? "And you don't?" Emma thought of her mother, Margaret, 58, and dying in that rental house on Morrison Street. Thought of the medical bills stacking up like cordwood. Thought of the eviction notice she'd hidden under her mattress. "No, sir, I don't." Dominic leaned back, and Emma noticed the others in the restaurant had gone quiet. Everyone was watching this exchange. "What's your name?" "Emma Walsh." "Well, Emma Walsh, I think you and I need to have a conversation." He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sit. Now, honey, let me tell you, when a man like Dominic Russo tells you to sit, smart girls run. But Emma? She had exactly $47 in her bank account and a mother who needed medication that cost $300 a week. So she sat, and that's when her real education began. "Tell me, Emma," Dominic said, pouring her a glass of wine she hadn't asked for. "What do you know about probability?" She blinked. Of all the questions she'd expected, that wasn't one of them. "Excuse me?" "That shot." He nodded toward table 7. "Came from 8 yards away. Tony's a decent shot, but he was angry. Angry men miss. Yet you didn't move. You calculated he'd miss before your brain even registered the sound." "How?" Emma's throat went dry. I don't know what you mean." "Yes," Dominic smiled. "And Lord have mercy, it was not a nice smile. Yes, you do." 3 days earlier, Emma had been a different person. Well, not really different, just better at hiding. She'd found the job listing on a bulletin board at the community college. Waitress needed, evening shifts, cash tips. No experience necessary. The address was for Russo's, a restaurant 40 minutes outside the city that locals whispered about but never quite explained. Emma needed cash. Fast. Her mother's latest round of treatments wasn't covered by their pathetic insurance, and the hospice nurse had started making noises about comfort care and saying goodbye. Emma wasn't ready to say goodbye. She'd already lost her father 10 years ago, a heart attack, sudden and brutal when she was just 15. Her mother was all she had left. So she'd put on her best black dress, pulled her dark hair into a neat bun, and driven her dying Honda Civic to the middle of nowhere. The restaurant was beautiful in an old-world way. Dark wood, leather booths, actual cloth napkins, the kind of place that cost more for one meal than Emma spent on groceries in a month. The man who'd interviewed her, a woman actually named Sophia, had looked her up and down with sharp eyes. "You're too pretty for this job," Sophia had said bluntly. Emma had bristled. "I just need to work. Pretty girls attract attention here. Attention gets you in trouble." "I can handle attention." Sophia had laughed, a harsh sound without humor. "Can you handle men who think money makes them gods? Can you smile while they say disgusting things? Can you keep your mouth shut when you see things that would make your grandmother cry?" Emma had needed this job too badly to lie. "Yes. And here's the thing, darlings." She'd meant it. Emma Walsh had spent 25 years being underestimated, overlooked, dismissed. Mousy Emma. Quiet Emma. Emma who sat in the back of classrooms and never caused trouble. What these people didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Emma had spent her entire childhood watching her father. Really watching him. Michael Walsh had been a gentleman, a kind father, a devoted husband. He'd also been one of the most brilliant strategic minds in the Northeast criminal underground. Emma had figured that out when she was 12. She'd never told her mother. Some secrets were better kept locked away, especially after he died and they'd moved 3 states away to start over. Margaret Walsh got sick thinking her husband had been a simple accountant. Emma let her keep that comfort. But Emma remembered. She remembered the late-night phone calls in coded language. The men in nice suits who'd visit their suburban home. The way her father could calculate odds and angles faster than most people could blink. He'd taught her chess when she was 6. By 8, she was beating adults. By 10, she understood that life was just chess with higher stakes. So when Sophia had asked if she could handle this job, Emma had told the truth. She could handle anything. The first week at Russo's had been exactly what Emma expected. Wealthy men with wandering hands, conversations she pretended not to understand, and tips that could cover her mother's medications with money left over. She'd perfected the art of being invisible while being seen. Smile, nod, pour, disappear. Never engage, never remember, never react. Then came that Tuesday night. The restaurant was half full, which meant about 20 very dangerous men having very dangerous conversations. Emma had learned to recognize the hierarchy. The guys at the bar were soldiers, enforcers, muscle, the ones who did the dirty work. The men at the tables were higher up, money men, strategists, the ones who stayed clean while others got bloody. And then there was the corner booth, table 12. That's where Dominic Russo held court. Emma had been specifically told never to serve table 12. Sophia handled it personally. But Sophia had called in sick, and the other waitress, a woman named Maria, looked ready to throw up when the hostess told her she'd have to cover it. "I'll do it," Emma had said quietly. Maria had grabbed her arm. "You don't understand. I understand." Emma had pulled free gently. "It's just a table." Except it wasn't just a table. When Emma approached with water glasses and menus, every conversation in the restaurant stopped. Dominic Russo looked up from his phone, and Emma felt the weight of that gaze like a physical thing. He was younger than she'd expected, 30 maybe, handsome in that dangerous way that smart girls avoid. Dark hair, darker eyes, a suit that probably cost more than her car. "You're new," he'd said. "Yes, sir." "What happened to Sophia?" "She's sick." Emma had kept her voice neutral, professional. "I'll be taking care of your table tonight." One of the men sitting with Dominic, older, with gray temples and cruel eyes, had laughed. This should be entertaining. But Dominic had held up a hand, silencing him. "What's your name?" "Emma. Just Emma. Emma Walsh." He'd studied her for a long moment, and Emma had fought the urge to fidget. She'd learned long ago how to be looked at without being seen, how to fade into the background even when you were standing right there. "Bring us the usual, Emma Walsh," Dominic had finally said. "And Emma, don't make me regret trusting you with my table." She'd nodded and walked away, feeling his eyes on her back. The usual turned out to be a very specific order. A bottle of 1995 Chianti, 3 glasses, and absolutely no food. Emma had delivered it perfectly, poured exactly the right amount, and disappeared. That should have been the end of it. But then Tony had walked in, angry about something Emma didn't understand and didn't need to. He'd pulled a gun, fired at the ceiling, or maybe at someone. Emma wasn't sure. And instead of running, instead of screaming, Emma had simply picked up a new wine glass and continued working. That's when everything changed. "Your father was Michael Walsh." Dominic's words hit Emma like ice water. They were alone now. He'd dismissed everyone else from the restaurant. Just the two of them in this empty space that suddenly felt very small. Emma's carefully constructed mask slipped. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't." His voice was sharp. "Don't insult both of us by lying. Michael Walsh, the architect, died of a supposed heart attack in 2015. Moved his family to Virginia 2 years before that. Had a daughter named Emma who would be, let me see, 25 now?" Emma's hands clenched in her lap. "My father was an accountant." "Your father," Dominic said, leaning forward, was the man who designed the Castellano merger that kept 5 families from going to war. He was the strategist behind the Hartford restructuring. He could look at chaos and see order. And then one day, he just disappeared. He died. So they say. Dominic's eyes never left hers. But people like Michael Walsh don't just die of heart attacks at 42. Emma felt something cold settle in her chest. What are you saying? I'm saying your father made enemies. I'm saying he knew things that powerful people wanted to stay buried. And I'm saying that his daughter, who's been hiding in plain sight for 10 years, just demonstrated the exact same kind of split-second calculation that made him legendary. The room seemed to tilt. Emma had spent a decade running from her father's shadow. She'd changed schools, changed her major, made herself small and forgettable. She'd never, ever let anyone see what he'd taught her. I'm just a waitress, she whispered. No, Dominic said softly, you're not. And here's where it gets interesting, folks. And by interesting, I mean absolutely insane. Because what Emma didn't know was that Dominic Russo had been looking for her for 6 months. See, Dominic had a problem. At 30, he'd inherited his father's organization and his father's enemies. The old ways weren't working anymore. The families were fracturing. Territories were being challenged. And Dominic needed someone who could think 10 steps ahead, someone who could see patterns where others saw chaos. He needed someone like Michael Walsh. And now, by pure chance, or maybe fate, if you believe in that sort of thing, Michael Walsh's daughter had walked right into his restaurant. I want to offer you a job, Dominic said. Emma laughed. She couldn't help it. I already have a job. I'm not talking about waitressing. He pulled out a folder from beneath the table and slid it across to her. I'm talking about using that brain of yours for something that actually matters. Emma didn't open the folder, didn't touch it. I'm not my father. No, Dominic agreed. You're probably smarter. He had the benefit of mentors. You figured it out alone. I don't know what you think I figured out, but... The Castellano merger. Dominic cut her off. Your father kept notes. Detailed notes about how he thought, how he calculated risk, how he saw connections others missed. Those notes disappeared when he died. But I've seen his work. And tonight, when Tony fired that shot, you did something your father used to do. Emma's pulse hammered. What? You didn't react to the gun. You reacted to the trajectory. You'd already calculated where the bullet would go before it left the chamber. That's not normal, Emma. That's not something you learn. That's genetic-level pattern recognition. The truth was, Emma had always known she was different. As a child, she'd see chess moves 5 steps ahead before her opponents saw one. She'd know when her teachers were lying before they finished their sentences. She'd understand the subtext of adult conversations that she wasn't supposed to hear. Her father had recognized it in her. That's why he'd started teaching her. Not because he wanted her in his world, but because he knew. With a gift like hers, she'd end up there anyway. Better to prepare her. My mother is dying, Emma said finally. I know. Dominic's voice softened. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 6 months, maybe less. The treatments she needs aren't covered by insurance. You're drowning in debt. That eviction notice comes due in 2 weeks. Emma's head snapped up. How do you? I know everything about you, Emma. Where you live, where you went to school, that you dropped out of college 3 times to take care of your mother, that you're working 3 jobs and still can't keep up. He paused. I also know that you're brilliant, and you're wasting your life being invisible. Maybe I want to be invisible. No, Dominic said. You think you should want to be invisible. There's a difference. The folder sat between them like a challenge. What's in there? Emma finally asked. Medical coverage for your mother. Full treatment at the best facility in the state. A house, paid for, in your name. And a salary that would make your current yearly income look like pocket change. Emma's throat went tight. In exchange for what? Your mind, your skills, your gift for seeing what others miss? Dominic's expression was serious now. I'm not asking you to hurt anyone, Emma. I'm asking you to help me build something better. The old ways are dying. Violence, intimidation, fear, it's all breaking down. I want to rebuild with strategy, with intelligence. I want to create something sustainable. You're talking about organized crime. I'm talking about organization, he corrected. The crime part is negotiable. And Lord, this man was dangerous. Not because of the gun she knew he carried or the power he wielded. Because he was offering her exactly what she'd always secretly wanted, a chance to stop hiding. to use the gift her father had given her, to matter. Emma opened the folder. Inside were contracts. Real contracts, the kind with lawyers and legal protections. A healthcare agreement for Margaret Walsh. A deed to a house on a quiet street in a good neighborhood. A salary figure that made Emma's hands shake. "This is insane," she whispered. "This is opportunity." Dominic stood, buttoning his jacket. "You have 48 hours to decide. If you say yes, your mother gets transferred to St. Catherine's tomorrow, best oncology department on the East Coast. If you say no, you walk out of here with $5,000 cash for your trouble, and we never speak of this again." "And if I say yes?" Emma's voice was barely audible. "What exactly would I be doing?" "Problem solving. We have territories in conflict. You'd find solutions that benefit everyone. We have business deals that need structuring. You'd design frameworks that protect all parties. We have information that needs analyzing. You'd find the patterns and tell me what they mean." He moved closer, and Emma could smell expensive cologne and something else. Ambition, maybe. Power. "Your father used to say that crime was just business with higher stakes. I want to lower those stakes. I want to build something that doesn't require violence to sustain it. But I can't do that alone." Emma thought of her mother, wasting away in that rental house. Thought of the bills, the stress, the endless cycle of not enough. Thought of her father, and everything he'd tried to teach her before he died. "I need to see her," Emma said. "Your mother?" Emma nodded. "If I'm going to make this decision, I need to see her first." Dominic pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. "My driver will take you. He'll wait while you visit and bring you back here. We'll finish this conversation then." As Emma stood to leave, Dominic caught her wrist. Not hard, not threatening, just enough to make her pause. "Emma," he said quietly, "whatever you decide, know this. You walked into that chaos tonight and didn't flinch. That's not something you can teach. That's something you're born with. And people like us, we're rare, we're valuable, and we're wasted in places like this." He released her. "Don't waste yourself, Emma Walsh." She left without answering, but her mind was already racing. Calculating angles, measuring risks, seeing 10 steps ahead. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she could hear her father's voice. "The best strategy is the one nobody sees coming, little bird. Remember that." Oh, Emma remembered. She remembered everything. And as she slid into Dominic's car, a Mercedes that probably cost more than her mother's entire medical debt, Emma Walsh made a decision that would change everything. But first, she needed to see her mother. Because Emma had learned something important from her father. The best decisions were made with full information. And right now, Emma needed to know exactly what she was gambling with. The driver pulled away from Russo's, and Emma watched the restaurant disappear in the rearview mirror. Behind her, Dominic Russo stood in the doorway, phone to his ear, making arrangements, setting pieces in motion. And neither of them knew that in 48 hours, everything would explode in a way neither could predict. But that's a story for the next chapter, darlings. That's where things get really interesting. The house on Morrison Street looked worse in the darkness. Peeling paint, a sagging porch, weeds choking what used to be her mother's garden. Emma's chest tightened as she climbed the steps, key already in hand. Inside, the smell hit her first, antiseptic and illness, the scent of slow dying that no amount of air freshener could mask. Margaret Walsh was awake, propped up on pillows in the hospital bed they'd rented when climbing stairs became impossible. She'd lost more weight. Her skin had that papery quality that made Emma want to scream. "Baby!" Her mother's voice was thin as tissue. "You're home early." Emma sat on the edge of the bed, taking her mother's hand carefully. The bones felt like bird wings beneath the skin. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something. If it's about the bills, Emma, don't." "I've told you." "It's not about the bills." Emma took a deep breath. "What if I told you I found a way to fix everything? Real treatment at a real hospital. A new house. Everything we need." Margaret's eyes sharpened despite the morphine haze. 25 years of motherhood had given her instincts sharp as knives. "What kind of way?" "A job offer. A really good one. Emma Rose Walsh." Her mother used the full name, and Emma felt 15 again. What kind of job? This was the moment. Emma could lie. God knows she'd gotten good at it over the years. She could paint it pretty, make it sound legitimate. But Margaret Walsh was dying, and Emma was tired of lying to the only person who'd ever really loved her. The kind Dad used to do, Emma said quietly. The silence stretched like taffy. Margaret's fingers tightened around Emma's hand. No. Mom, no. Her mother's voice cracked. I moved us away from that world. I watched your father sell pieces of his soul until there was nothing left. That heart attack that killed him? Emma, that was stress. That was the weight of all those deals, all those compromises, all those... She broke off, coughing. Emma held her while her body shook. I know what Dad really did, Emma said when the coughing subsided. I've always known. Margaret went very still. What? I figured it out when I was 12. The visitors, the phone calls, the way he'd look at chessboards like they were war maps. I know he wasn't an accountant, Mom. I know he was the architect. Her mother's face crumpled. Oh, baby. Oh, Emma. I tried so hard to keep you away from that. When he died, I prayed that you'd be free of it. I have his gift, Mom. Emma's voice was steady now. That thing he could do, seeing patterns and connections, I have it too. Maybe stronger than he did. And I've been hiding it my whole life because I knew it scared you. But I'm drowning and you're dying and someone just offered me a lifeboat. At what cost? Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Your father paid with his life, Emma. They'll take everything from you. They're offering everything to me. Emma pulled out her phone, showed her mother the photos of the contracts. Real medical care. A house with a garden you can actually use. Money for treatments that might actually work. Mom, I could save you. And lose yourself. Margaret cupped Emma's face with shaking hands. You're so much like him, that brilliant, dangerous mind. But you're also like me. You feel things, Emma. Your father learned to turn that off. It killed him from the inside. So I should just let you die because I'm scared? Emma's voice broke. I should watch you waste away in this hellhole because Dad made mistakes? That's not fair, Mom. None of this is fair. Margaret pulled her daughter close, and they sat there in the darkness, two women who'd already lost too much, facing an impossible choice. Tell me about this man who offered you the job, Margaret finally whispered. Tell me everything. So Emma did. She told her about Dominic Russo, about the restaurant, about the way he'd looked at her like she was a person instead of a ghost. She told her about the folder, the contracts, the promise of something better than violence. And Margaret listened, because that's what mothers do. They listen even when their hearts are breaking. When Emma finished, Margaret was quiet for a long time. Your father used to say something, she finally said. He'd say that the most dangerous traps are the ones that look like opportunities. This isn't a trap, Mom. Isn't it? Margaret's eyes met hers. A handsome young man offering you the world in exchange for your gift? Emma, that's exactly what a trap looks like. And here's the thing, darlings. Margaret Walsh wasn't wrong. She'd watched her husband get consumed by that world. She'd seen good men become monsters, one compromise at a time. But she'd also raised a daughter who was stronger than Michael had ever been. Emma had her father's brilliance without his weaknesses. Maybe, just maybe, Emma could survive where he hadn't. If you do this, Margaret said carefully, promise me 3 things. Anything. First, you set boundaries. The moment they ask you to hurt someone innocent, you walk away, no matter what they threaten. Emma nodded. Second, you keep part of yourself separate. Don't give them everything. Your father did that and it destroyed him. Keep something sacred. I promise. And third, Margaret's voice hardened. The second I'm gone, you get out. You take whatever money you've earned and you disappear. You don't owe them your whole life, Emma. You hear me? Emma's throat closed. Mom, you're not... I'm dying, baby. We both know it. Maybe this treatment buys me 6 months, maybe a year. But I'm not going to let you sacrifice your future for a present I won't even see. You do this, you save me, you make my last months comfortable, and then you run. Promise me. The weight of it crushed Emma's chest. But she nodded. I promise. They sat together until Margaret fell asleep, and Emma memorized her mother's face. Every line, every shadow. Because she knew, with the certainty that came from her gift, that she was about to step into a world that didn't let people go. And promises made to dying mothers were the hardest ones to keep. Dominic was waiting when Emma returned to the restaurant, still in the same booth, still radiating that dangerous calm. But something in his posture told Emma he'd been worried she wouldn't come back. Well? He asked as she slid into the seat across from him. Emma placed her hand flat on the folder. I have conditions. A smile ghosted across his face. Of course you do. First, my mother gets the treatment immediately. Not after I prove myself. Not after some trial period. Tomorrow. Done. Second, I want the contracts reviewed by an independent lawyer. Someone who doesn't work for you. Someone who can tell me if there are any traps buried in the fine print. Dominic's eyes gleamed with something that might have been respect. Smart. I'll have my assistant send you 3 names tomorrow. Pick whichever one you trust. Third, Emma's voice went cold. I'm not a killer. I won't design strategies that require innocent people to die. If that's what you need, find someone else. I don't need a killer, Emma. I have plenty of those. He leaned forward. I need someone who can help me build something that doesn't require killing. The old ways are dying anyway. Violence is expensive, it attracts attention, and it's ultimately unsustainable. I want to rebuild this organization into something smarter. And if the others don't want to rebuild, then I'll need you to help me convince them. His smile was sharp. With strategy, not bullets. Emma studied him. In the dim light of the restaurant, Dominic Russo looked younger than 30. There was something hungry in his eyes. Ambition, yes, but also something else. A desire to prove himself, maybe. To be different from whatever his father had been. Why me? Emma asked. You could hire consultants, strategists, business analysts. Why risk bringing in the daughter of a dead man from a world you're trying to leave behind? Because they'd see a crime organization and try to make it legitimate, Dominic said simply. You see a complex system and know how to optimize it. You understand the rules of this world, the real rules, not the laws. Your father taught you that there's a difference. He wasn't wrong. Emma had learned young that the legal system and the actual system were 2 completely different things. Her father had operated in the spaces between laws, where everything was gray and success belonged to those who could see furthest ahead. One more condition, Emma said. When my mother dies, I get to walk away. Clean break, no strings, no obligations. Dominic's expression flickered. That's not how this works, Emma. Then we don't have a deal. She stood to leave. Wait. His hand shot out, not grabbing her, but hovering near her wrist. Sit, please. Emma remained standing. This was a test, and they both knew it. If she sat now, she'd be establishing a pattern. He commanded, she obeyed. That couldn't be their dynamic. Not if she wanted to survive. Dominic seemed to realize this. He stood as well, meeting her eye to eye. 6 months after your mother passes, he said carefully, you can renegotiate your contract. If you want to leave, we'll discuss terms. I can't promise to let you walk away. You'll know too much by then. But I promise we'll find a solution that doesn't involve you staying against your will. It wasn't what Emma wanted, but it was more than she'd expected. I want that in writing. You'll have it. He extended his hand. Do we have a deal, Emma Walsh? Emma looked at his hand. This was it, the moment she'd been running from her entire life. The moment she stopped hiding and stepped into her father's shadow. Or maybe she was stepping out of his shadow into her own light. She thought of her mother, dying in that rental house. Thought of her father, who'd paid with his life for his choices. Thought of herself at 15, promising she'd never end up in this world. But sometimes life didn't care about the promises you made. Sometimes it backed you into corners and asked what you were willing to sacrifice. Emma shook his hand. His grip was firm, warm, exactly as confident as she'd expected. We have a deal, she said. And as she said it, as their hands connected and the weight of the decision settled over her, Emma felt something shift inside her. For 10 years, she'd been half a person, brilliant but constrained, capable but hidden. Now, for better or worse, she was about to become whole. Dominic released her hand and pulled out his phone. I'm calling St. Catherine's now. Your mother will be admitted first thing tomorrow morning. A car will pick her up at 8 a.m. He paused, meeting Emma's eyes. Welcome to the family, Emma Walsh. I think you're going to change everything. And God help her. Emma believed him. Because that's exactly what she intended to do. The next 3 months were a baptism by fire. Emma moved her mother into St. Catherine's, where actual doctors with actual hope worked miracles with treatment plans. Margaret gained weight, color returned to her face, and for the first time in 2 years, Emma heard her mother laugh. The house Dominic provided was everything he'd promised. 3 bedrooms, a real kitchen, a garden that Margaret could tend from her wheelchair on good days. Emma decorated her mother's room with photos and soft blankets and tried not to calculate how much time they had left. Because the treatments were working, but Emma knew, she always knew, that working and curing were two different things. During the day, Emma visited her mother. At night, she worked for Dominic. Her office was a corner booth at Russo's, her computer a laptop that was probably worth more than her old car, her co-workers men who'd killed people without losing sleep. She'd expected them to resent her, this young woman who'd waltzed in from nowhere and gained the boss's ear. Instead, they were curious. Dominic had introduced her carefully. Not as his strategist, not as his advisor, but as the daughter of the architect. In this world, that name still meant something. Men who'd never met Michael Walsh knew his work. The Castellano merger, the Hartford restructuring, the Providence solution. These were legends, and Emma was his legacy. Your first assignment, Dominic had told her on day 3, is the waterfront. He'd spread maps across the table. Physical maps, not digital, because digital left traces. 3 families want control. Right now, they're at a stalemate, but stalemates don't last. Someone's going to get impatient, someone's going to get violent, and we'll have a war that benefits nobody. Emma had studied the maps for 6 hours straight. She'd traced shipping routes, analyzed financial records, interviewed each family's representative. And then she'd seen it, the pattern that changed everything. They don't want the same thing, she told Dominic. They think they're fighting over territory, but they're actually fighting over 3 different resources. Family A wants the shipping access. Family B wants the development rights. Family C wants the political connections. They're only competing because they think it's an all-or-nothing situation. Dominic had leaned back, smiling. And it's not? It's not. Emma had redesigned the map, carving the waterfront into 3 distinct zones. Family A gets the North Docks. That's where the shipping routes are most valuable. Family B gets the South End. That's where the city council is approving new development. Family C gets the middle. That's where the political players live and work. They'll never agree to split it. They will if we make each zone more valuable, separated than combined. Emma had pulled out financial projections, zoning variance applications, shipping schedules. I've structured deals that give each family exactly what they actually need, not what they think they're fighting for, and I've built in penalties if any of them try to expand into another's territory. It had taken 2 weeks to sell the families on Emma's plan. 2 weeks of negotiations, adjustments, compromise. But in the end, it worked. The waterfront was divided, violence was avoided, and Dominic's organization emerged as the peacekeeper. Emma became a legend overnight. The architect's daughter, they called her. The girl who sees what others miss. Men twice her age sought her advice. Women who'd married into this world watched her warily, unsure if she was threat or opportunity. And Dominic watched her like she was the most fascinating puzzle he'd ever encountered. "You're better than your father," he told her one night after a particularly complex negotiation. They were alone in the restaurant, going over contracts. He could see 5 moves ahead. "You see 10. Emma looked up from her laptop. "My father's dead. Being better than him doesn't seem like much of an accomplishment." "He died because he got emotional," Dominic said bluntly. "He cared too much about being right, about being respected. You don't have that problem." "How do you know?" "Because if you did, you wouldn't be here. You'd have let pride stop you from accepting my offer. Instead, you calculated the odds and made the smart play." He paused. "That's why you'll survive where he didn't." Emma wanted to argue, but she couldn't, because he was right. Her father had died trying to prove something. Emma was just trying to survive. The difference was everything. But survival, Emma was learning, came with costs. Every solution she designed, every conflict she resolved, every deal she structured, it all worked because she could turn off the part of herself that felt guilty. That night, lying in her new bed in her new house, Emma stared at the ceiling and wondered if her mother had been right. Was she losing herself one compromise at a time? Or was she finally becoming who she'd always been meant to be? The revelation came on a Tuesday, exactly 97 days after Emma had shaken Dominic's hand. She was in her office, an actual office now with walls and a door and everything, reviewing shipping manifests when the anomaly caught her eye. A pattern that didn't fit. Shipments coming through the North Docks, logged properly, taxed properly, completely legal, except they weren't going where they were supposed to go. Emma pulled up secondary records, traced the shipments through 3 shell companies, found the real destination buried under layers of legitimate business. Her blood went cold. "Dominic," she said when she stormed into his office an hour later, "we need to talk. Now." He looked up from his own work, caught the expression on her face. "Clear the room," he told the 2 men sitting across from him. They left without question. Once they were alone, Emma threw the file onto his desk. "Tell me what I'm looking at isn't what I think it is." Dominic opened the file. His expression never changed, but Emma saw his jaw tighten. "Where did you get this?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is that someone in your organization is trafficking people. Children, Dominic. They're moving children through the North Docks, and they're using the routes I designed to do it." The air in the room went sharp as broken glass. "You're sure?" "I'm always sure." Emma's voice shook with rage. "That's the whole point of me being here. I see patterns. And this pattern is crystal clear." Dominic closed the file carefully. Too carefully. "Do you know who's running it?" "Vincent Calabresi, your father's old consigliere." Emma watched his face. "Did you know?" "No." The word came out flat, final. "I didn't know." "But you suspected." It wasn't a question. Dominic stood, walked to the window. Outside, the city sprawled in all directions. Millions of people living their lives, unaware of the darkness that funded their favorite restaurants, their safe neighborhoods, their convenient business deals. "My father built this organization on certain principles," he said quietly. "One of them was that some lines you don't cross. Drugs, fine. Gambling, fine. Protection, theft, fraud, all acceptable. But human trafficking, children, that was forbidden. Vincent worked for your father for 20 years. And when my father died 2 years ago, Vincent made it very clear he thought I was too young, too soft, too idealistic to run things properly. I've been trying to push him out, but he has allies. Old guard who remember my father and think I'm a disappointment." Dominic turned to face her. "If Vincent is running this operation, he's doing it to undermine me, to prove I can't control my own organization. Then we shut him down." Emma's voice was steel. "Tonight. It's not that simple. Vincent has connections, muscle, resources. If we move against him without proof, without support, it could tear everything apart. We'd have civil war. And if we don't move against him, we're complicit in selling children." Emma stepped closer. "That's the line, Dominic. That's the thing I told you I wouldn't be part of. This is where I walk away." "You can't walk away." His voice was urgent now. "Emma, if you leave, I lose the only person smart enough to help me navigate this. Vincent will win. And if Vincent wins, this gets worse. So what are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we do exactly what you do best." Dominic's eyes met hers. "We build a strategy. We gather evidence. We turn his allies against him. We make it so when we take him down, it's clean, final, and sends a message to anyone else thinking about crossing those lines." Emma wanted to refuse. Every instinct screamed that waiting was wrong, that children were suffering right now, that delay was complicity. But the cold, calculating part of her, the part that was pure Michael Walsh, saw the logic. Moving too fast would fail, and failure meant Vincent would cover his tracks and continue. "1 week," Emma said. "You have 1 week to help me build a case so airtight that even Vincent's allies will turn on him. After that, I'm going to the FBI with or without you." Dominic nodded slowly. 1 week. They worked around the clock. Emma had never seen Dominic like this. Focused, ruthless, willing to burn bridges with old allies to find the truth. Together, they uncovered a network that made Emma sick. Vincent wasn't just trafficking children. He was running an entire pipeline, using Dominic's organization as cover, while funneling profits into his own accounts. The proof was devastating. Financial records, witness testimony from terrified dock workers, security footage that Vincent thought he'd erased. Emma compiled it all into a presentation that would destroy him. On day 6, Dominic called a meeting. Every major player in the organization, all in one room. Emma stood beside Dominic as he presented the evidence. She watched Vincent's face go from confident to pale to desperate. "You have no authority?" Vincent started. "I have absolute authority," Dominic cut him off, "and I'm exercising it now. You're out." "You're done. And if you're not gone by sunrise, you'll be dead by sunset." Vincent looked around the room for support, found none. Emma had made sure of that. She'd shown each potential ally exactly how Vincent had been stealing from them, lying to them, using them. They'd turned on him instantly. That night, as Vincent was escorted out, stripped of power, protection, and pride, Dominic turned to Emma. "You saved us," he said quietly. "I saved them," Emma corrected, thinking of children she'd never met. "We're not the victims here." Margaret Walsh died on a Sunday morning in February, exactly 4 months after Emma had made her deal with Dominic. She went peacefully, in the beautiful room at St. Catherine's, with Emma holding her hand and sunlight streaming through windows that overlooked a garden Margaret had never had the strength to walk through. Her last words were, "Remember your promise, baby. Get out." Emma buried her mother in a cemetery with actual grass and real headstones, not the potter's field they'd barely been able to afford before. Dominic sent flowers but didn't attend the service. It was a small gesture of respect, a separation between Emma's two worlds. But after the funeral, after the last mourners had left and Emma stood alone at the grave, she felt it, the weight of the promise she'd made. 6 months after your mother passes, you can renegotiate. That was the deal. Emma had 6 months to decide what came next. But first, she had to get through today. Emma went back to work on Monday. What else was she supposed to do? Sit in that beautiful house that echoed with her mother's absence? Count the days until she could leave? Work was better. Work meant problems she could solve, patterns she could see, a world she could control. Except the world had changed. With Vincent gone, Dominic had consolidated power in ways Emma hadn't expected. He was restructuring everything, making the organization leaner, smarter, more legitimate. And Emma was at the center of it all. "I want you to meet someone," Dominic told her one evening. They were in his office reviewing acquisition contracts. "Who?" "My mother." Emma looked up, startled. Dominic never talked about his family. "Your mother?" "Sophia Russo. She's old school, traditional, sharp as hell. She's been asking about you." He smiled slightly. "Actually, she's been demanding to meet the girl who thinks she can reform my son." "I'm not trying to reform you." "Aren't you?" Dominic closed the contract. "Every strategy you design moves us further from violence. Every deal you structure reduces our dependence on illegal revenue. You're systematically transforming this organization into something almost legitimate. If that's not reform, what is?" Emma hadn't thought about it that way, but he was right. In 4 months, she'd resolved 6 major conflicts without bloodshed, restructured 4 territories to reduce competition, and designed 5 business ventures that were completely legal. She was accidentally building the future Dominic claimed he wanted. "When does she want to meet?" Emma asked. "Thursday. Dinner at her house. Fair warning, she's going to interrogate you, judge you, and probably try to figure out if we're sleeping together." Emma choked. That's not, I know." Dominic's voice was carefully neutral. "But she's going to assume. Powerful young man, brilliant young woman, lots of time alone together. In her world, there's only one explanation for that. Then we'll correct her assumption. Will we?" Dominic stood, walked to where Emma sat. "Because here's the thing, Emma. These past 4 months, working with you, building something better with you, it's been the best part of my life. You're brilliant and fearless, and you see me, not just the position I hold. So maybe my mother's not entirely wrong to wonder." Emma's heart hammered. This was dangerous. More dangerous than Vincent, than trafficking rings, than anything else she'd faced. Because Dominic Russo was looking at her like she was more than an asset, like she was a person he cared about. And Emma, God help her, felt the same way. "I made a promise to my mother," Emma said quietly. "I promised I'd leave. I know. So whatever this is, whatever you're suggesting, it can't happen, because in 2 months, I'm gone. 2 months can be a long time. Or it can be nothing." Emma stood, gathering her files. "I should go." "Emma, wait." "Dominic, don't." She met his eyes. "Don't make this harder than it already is. I'm leaving. That's not negotiable. So let's keep this professional, please." He stepped back, and Emma saw the mask slide back into place. The dangerous calm, the controlled power. Professional. Right. Of course. Emma left before she could change her mind, but that night, lying alone in her house, she couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd looked at her, like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. The problem was, Emma was starting to feel the same way. Dinner with Sophia Russo was exactly as terrifying as Emma had anticipated. The Russo family home was a mansion in the old sense, not modern, not flashy, but powerful. Heavy furniture, expensive art, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Sophia herself was in her late 50s, beautiful in a severe way, with eyes that missed nothing. She took one look at Emma and said, "So you're the one who thinks she can save my son?" "I'm not trying to save anyone," Emma replied. "I'm just doing a job." "Liar." Sophia smiled, sharp as knives. "Good liars are useful in this family. Sit, eat, tell me about your mother." They talked for 3 hours. Sophia asked invasive questions and Emma answered honestly. What was the point of lying? This woman had probably had her investigated down to her elementary school records. But somewhere during the interrogation, because that's what it was, something shifted. Sophia's questions became less about testing and more about understanding. "Your father was brilliant," Sophia said over dessert. "Michael Walsh could see angles that didn't exist yet. My husband consulted him twice. Said it was like talking to a computer that understood human nature." "He died for it," Emma said quietly. "Yes." Sophia's voice was surprisingly gentle. "He died because he couldn't stop. Brilliant men often can't. They get addicted to being the smartest person in the room, to having all the answers, to being indispensable." She paused. "Don't make the same mistake, Emma. I'm not my father. No, you're smarter. You're more careful. But you're also more dangerous because of it." Sophia leaned forward. "My son is falling in love with you. You know this, yes?" Emma's throat closed. "That's not... Don't insult me with denials. I've watched Dominic his entire life. I know what he looks like when he's interested in a woman. This is different. You're different." Sophia's eyes were piercing. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "I'm leaving," Emma said firmly. "In 2 months, my contract allows me to renegotiate. I'm leaving. And breaking his heart in the process. Better his heart than his life." Emma's voice went hard. "This world destroys people, Mrs. Russo. It destroyed my father. It's destroying your son one compromise at a time. I won't stay and watch that happen. I won't become one more chain keeping him here." Sophia studied her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. "You really do love him." "I didn't say..." "You didn't have to." Sophia stood, signaling dinner was over. "Emma Walsh, you're either the best thing that ever happened to my son, or you'll be the thing that finally breaks him. I haven't decided which yet." As Emma left, Sophia called after her, "Your mother was right to make you promise to leave, but promises to the dead are easier to make than keep. Remember that." The final weeks passed like water through fingers. Emma and Dominic worked together, built strategies together, transformed the organization together, and carefully, deliberately, they never talked about what came next. Until the night before Emma's 6-month deadline. They were in the restaurant, long after everyone else had gone home. Emma had prepared her resignation letter, had packed her important belongings, had purchased a plane ticket to Seattle under a different name. She was ready to disappear. "So this is it," Dominic said quietly. He hadn't looked at the resignation letter, hadn't tried to talk her out of it. "This is it." Emma's voice was steady. "Thank you for keeping your word." "Emma, don't." She stood to leave. "Please don't make this harder." "I love you." The words stopped her cold. "I love you," Dominic repeated. "And I know you love me too. We could build something amazing together. Not just this organization, a life, a future, something neither of our parents could have imagined. Built on what foundation?" Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Crime? Compromise? The same world that killed my father? I can't, Dominic. I won't." "Then this world doesn't deserve you." He stood, walked to her. "Go, build something better. Be something better. And Emma, thank you. For everything you've done here. For everything you taught me about actually being good instead of just pretending." He kissed her forehead. Gentle, final. "Goodbye, Emma Walsh. I hope you find whatever you're looking for." Emma left without looking back. She had to. Because if she looked back, she'd stay. And staying meant breaking the promise she'd made to her dying mother. At the airport, Emma bought a coffee and sat at the gate, waiting for her flight to board. She'd done it, kept her promise, saved her mother, worked for the devil, and escaped with her soul intact. She should feel triumphant. Instead, she felt empty. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "He's releasing all your contracts. No strings. You're free. He also donated $2 million to St. Catherine's Cancer Ward in your mother's name. Sophia." Emma stared at the message until her vision blurred. Dominic had let her go. Really let her go. No conditions, no threats, no hidden clauses. He'd kept his word even though it cost him everything he wanted. That's when Emma Walsh understood the cruelest truth of all. Sometimes the right choice felt exactly like the wrong one. Her flight was called. Emma stood, grabbed her bag, and walked toward the gate. Toward Seattle. Toward a new life. Toward freedom. But with every step, she felt it. The weight of walking away from the one person who'd truly seen her. From the one place where her gift had mattered. From the possibility of something real. At the gate, the attendant smiled. "Ticket, please?" Emma's hand trembled as she reached for her boarding pass. She thought of her mother, her promise, her father's fate. She thought of Dominic, brilliant, dangerous, trying so hard to be better. And she thought of herself. Who was Emma Walsh when she wasn't hiding, when she wasn't running, when she let herself be fully, completely, dangerously herself? The attendant waited. Emma took a breath and made a choice. The end. Emma Walsh learned what her father never did, that the bravest thing isn't having all the answers. It's knowing when to walk away, even from the things that make you whole. Or maybe, it's knowing when to stay.